50 and 200 will begin less than 2 months from now, but at a time when prices of goods are rising and as authorities look into supposed shortage of various commodities, a militant farmers group says it wants cash assistance instead. Our senior correspondent Lois Calderon has more.
30,000 pesos per hectare of farmland. That's the cost of production rice farmers have to shell out to yield up to 200 bags or sacks of rice per hectare. Farmers now want the Marcos government to shoulder half of that production cost, or 15,000 pesos, to be given as cash dole out or unconditional cash transfer, not as a loan. Under the resurrected Masagana program espoused by his father in the 1970s, President Bongbong Marcos, as Agriculture Secretary, wants farmers to produce those 200 bags of rice. But farmers say the Masagana 150 and Masagana 200 would only sink them deeper into debt.
Sa Masagana 150, Masagana 200, pauutangin may magsasaka. Nagtanim kami ng ayarite, tinamaan ng tungkol virus. Abay, hindi masaganang ani, masaganang utang ang inani namin, no, ng mga magsasaka.
Former Agrarian Reform Secretary and now Chairman Emeritus of the Kilusang Magbubukid ng Pilipinas, Rafael Mariano, says the 15,000 peso ayuda can be sourced from unspent funds from rice tariffs amounting to 8.9 billion pesos. The Budget Department in early August released over 8 billion pesos as funds for a 5,000 peso subsidy covering 1.5 million rice farmers. When asked if it can allot more, the agency says it will try to look for other sources.
We are in a very tight fiscal position. So, yung sabihin, medyo kaunti na lang yung ating legroom kung ito po ay maaprubahan at mai-recommenda po sa Department of Budget and Management. Siyempre po, hanapan naman po natin ang pondo yan as long as meron po tayong excess revenue.
Farmers and fishermen huddled in this tiny room somewhere in Quezon City, lamenting rising prices and input costs like fertilizers only make them poorer. It's not just the one-time cash transfer they seek. Their laundry list is long and requires congressional amendments on laws. But they did not spare the Bureau of Customs and Sugar regulators.
Umiiral yung hoarding at cartel ng sugar industry na para sa amin, no? Hindi ito mangyayari kung wala ding mga kolaborasyon within o sa loob mismo ng ahensya ng gobyerno, SRA.
The farmers' vows magnify the paradox that those who feed the nation are the ones who often end up hungry. Lois Calderon, CNN Philippines.
The Trade and Industry Department confirms it has approved the price hike in some salt products. Based on DTI's price bulletin, rock and iodized salt prices are up by as much as 3 pesos and 85 centavos per kilo. The agency explains this is just the first time manufacturers requested price hikes after 4 to 6 years. It also says there is still enough supply of salt in the country.
Ang pagtaas ng presyo ng mga ilan na locally manufactured ay dahilan lang po sa kailangan na talaga nilang magtaas over the years. Ngayon lang po ulit sila nagtataas. Hindi po dahil sa shortage natin ng asin.
On Monday, Agriculture Undersecretary Domingo Panganiban confirms the country is facing issues with the production of salt. Panganiban said that because of this, the government had to import salt. A milling company in Bukidnon denies hoarding sugar after authorities swooped down on its warehouses. On Tuesday, customs, military, and police officials stormed the Crystal Sugar Milling's facilities in Maramag Town based on intelligence reports that the company was stockpiling sugar. Authorities found over 466,000 sacks of sugar, 264,000 of which were said to have already been sold to traders, but have yet to be pulled out from the warehouse. When authorities asked to prove that it was an authorized stock, company officials were not able to present documents at the time. But Crystal Sugar Milling's Vice President Javier Sagarbarria insists the allegations against them are unfounded and unjustified. He says real hoarders are the traders who buy the sugar and manipulate the pricing. Sagarbarria explains of their total sugar production, they only get 34%. It is up to farmers and planters, to which traders sell the remaining 66%. In other news, the blame game begins as centers grill officials involved in the purchase of alleged overpriced and outdated laptops for public school teachers. AC Nichols has the highlights of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee's hearing.
Senators compare it to a basketball game, as the Department of Education and Procurement Service of the Budget Department, or PSDBM, were blaming one another.
Welcome to the basketball game that we do not see, that we do not get to see. Yan ang nangyayari. We only get to see it pagka may sumabog na.
The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee is looking into a $2.4 billion contract for the purchase of laptops for public school teachers. The DepEd coursed the procurement deal through the PSDBM. State auditors, however, flagged the transaction as the laptops cost over 58,000 pesos, way higher than the initial estimated approved price of around 35,000 pesos. The DepEd said it was PSDBM that set the final price based on its market analysis.
I trusted that the TWG made their due diligence in terms of conducting a price analysis. And nakita ko naman sa mga dokumento based on dito na ganito yung mataas na yung presyo.
Due to the price difference, the total number of units purchased went down from almost 70,000 to less than 40,000 pieces. Auditors also noted that the laptops had old processors, which do not match the required technical specifications. Senators said the DepEd should have asked for a better deal.
Ito ay Mac-Air. Ito yung presyo ng pinabili mo na entry level para sa mga teachers. So is it incompetence o kakuntsaba ka ng mga taga-DBMPS?
Senate Blue Ribbon Committee Chairman Francis Tolentino also pointed out errors in the Memorandum of Agreement between DepEd and PSDBM. The Food and Drug Administration was mentioned at one point, which he says reflects negligence.
Siguro dito po nag-uugat yung problema natin. Yung legal department natin ay medyo mahina.
Former PSDBM Executive Director Lloyd Christopher Lau explained the price went up due to the high demand for gadgets amid the health crisis.
Lumiit yung work in the office, tumaas yung work from home. So everybody was buying laptop, pati yung schools, and everybody was going online. So the demand for laptop increased. That's the reason why tumaas yung prices.
Senators believe there are lapses from the get-go when the PSDBM conducted its market analysis. It would appear one individual from PSDBM's planning division was responsible for selecting possible suppliers for the deal. Engineer Marwan Amil is saying he sent requests for quotes to 6 possible suppliers. However, the senators noted that most of these suppliers could not supply laptops with the required specs.
Sa dami ng supplier sa Pilipinas, no one can supply 1.9 gigahertz.
Yung 6 lang po yung sinendan ko po.
Some senators believe there is corruption involved here. There's one question senators asked: is the PSDBM worth saving, or should it be abolished amid these questionable deals? AC Nichols, CNN Philippines.
While the Education Department says the school opening went smoothly, a teachers group disagrees, saying there is still no clear plan for a safe return to in-person classes. ACT Teachers Party List asks DepEd for a, quote, truthful assessment of the educational system to obtain enough funding and create what ACT Party List calls an evidence-based plan for classes during the pandemic. The party list says over half of teachers surveyed in Metro Manila worry about their safety in schools because of COVID. The group also says resources were lacking, resulting in packed classrooms and overworked personnel. DepEd previously said it planned to hire more teachers. At least 3 people are reported dead and 4 others injured because of severe tropical storm Florita. The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC, says 2 of the casualties are confirmed. The victims, both male, were hit by fallen trees, or trees fell on victims in Cagayan and Kalinga. The unconfirmed death reportedly happened in Camarines Sur. Nearly 12,000 families have been affected by Florita. Damage to agriculture is estimated at more than 3 million pesos based on data from the Agriculture Department. Most of the destroyed crops are from the Ilocos region. We head on over to one of the hardest hit regions, Cagayan Valley. Officials still assessing the damage from Florida, but so far it has affected over 2,300 farmers in the capital city of Tuguegarao. Stanley Gaheta has the details.
Immediately after the storm, these vegetable vendors near Pinakanawan and Cagayan River are back selling.
Talagang pinipilit lang po namin, yun lang po ang pagkabuhayan po namin. Kaya pinipili na lang po namin dito. Kahit medyo mahirap.
Hanggang sa digdib yung baha dito sa loob. Putik-putik to, ang daming putik yan. Lahat ng po, nasa daan, putik yan. Galing dito, na tibag yung nasa taas. Pumalik kami para mag-display na kami, at saka maglinis.
Tuguegarao City is now business as usual days after severe tropical storm Florita hit Cagayan province. However, the agriculture sector is still reeling from the storm as it damaged 38.1 hectares of rice plantation, affecting 40 farmers. More than 2,790 hectares of cornfields were also damaged, affecting 2,300 farmers. Rice and corn are the primary agricultural products of the province.
Yung mga nadapa na crops natin, may chance na pong makarecover. So may 50% chance naman ng recovery. A few minutes,
The mayor is not yet ready to declare a state of calamity as her office is still waiting for the post-disaster assessments from other agencies. The local government plans to use funds allotted for the national state of health emergency in case there is an immediate need to provide aid to affected farmers.
So far as the whole city is concerned, maganda naman po yung kalagayan natin lahat. Ngayon dito,
manageable pa. Manageable kasi we will be honest with that.
All evacuees have returned home, but residents from 20 affected barangays are asking for relief goods from the city's Social Welfare and Development Office.
We still to do validation to us other barangays to see if they are really na flood po.
There are no severely damaged infrastructures and submerged bridges have already been cleared.
So, ikukumpara po natin yung pag-check ng Typhoon Florita. Mas maganda po yung naging situation ng lampak ng Cagayan ngayon. At hindi po masyadong naminsala po yung lampak ng Florita sa kanyang pagdaan.
Local officials also said they were 95% prepared this time as they laid down all plans before Florita hit the region. Stanley Gaete, CNN Philippines.
Up ahead, the Senate committee reopens discussions for charter change, and the SUV driver in the Mandaluyong hit-and-run case gets indicted for frustrated homicide. Newsnight will be right back.
Bilib ako sa MX3 dahil ito ay napatunayang may alpha, beta at gamma mangosteen. MX3 capsule helps avoid pain discomfort para iwas sakit. Tested and proven na low sodium, cholesterol-free at fat-free. Dito ako sa tunay, natural at original. MX3.
Mahalagang paalala, ang MX3 capsule ay hindi gamot at hindi dapat gamiting panggamot sa anumang uri ng sakit.
Welcome back to CNN Philippines. The Senate Committee on Constitutional Amendments takes its first steps towards charter change, or CHACHA. Amor Santos has the highlights of the panel's first hearing, led by the committee's chairman, Robin Padilla.
Charter change talks started early in the Senate, exactly a month into the 19th Congress. Previously, the chamber was cold to amending the Constitution, but the new chairman of the Senate Committee on Constitutional Amendments, Senator Robin Padilla, is warming up.
May isang katotohanang nananaig, mananaig. Ito ang katotohanang tumutugon ang mga Pilipino sa mga pagkakataong tinatawag tayo upang paigtingin, pagbutihin o lalo pang isaayos ang ating saligang batas kung kinakailangan.
Padilla filed a resolution to study the possible revision, while Senator Win Gatchalian limited his proposal to economic provisions. Amid criticisms about Padilla's qualifications as the first non-lawyer to head the committee, Attorney Christian Monsod, one of the framers of the 1987 Constitution, says the neophyte handled Thursday's debates well. On economic chacha, Monsod believes recently passed laws have already opened the country to foreign investment. He also warns against a sweeping revision of the charter, which for him, the previous administration tried to do.
We have largely failed in human development, not because of the Constitution, but because we have not fully implemented it, especially its provisions on social justice and human rights and local autonomy. The Constitution is not the problem, it is part of the solution. The Puno Committee is a new Constitution, it's not a revision of the Constitution.
For Monsod, only a few changes are needed, such as allowing tandem voting for president and vice president. While for some advocates, the president should be entitled to a 4-year term with re-election instead of a single term of 6 years.
Mas maganda ngayon na maipasa na po natin ito sa simula pa lamang ng Marcos administration para hindi tayo magawa ng issue na ito ay ginagawa lang natin para pahabain ang termino ng Pangulong Bongbong.
But Monsod asks, how can a Congress run by political dynasties be trusted with this job?
It's a long-distance run of commitment and endurance. But until we get a new generation of leaders who come from the poor, there will be no real change in this country.
Pagka ganun po ang susundan natin ay abutin po tayo ng second coming ni Jesus Christ. Hindi po mananalo ang mahirap. Pero dito po, sa komprehensibong pagbabago, binibigyan po natin ng kapangyarihan na magbuo ang mga mahihirap ng partido, tulungan ng Estado.
Amor Santos, CNN Philippines.
The Jail Management Bureau is looking into a protest staged by more than 100 inmates at an Iloilo jail over food. The inmates climbed the roof of the building Wednesday, with some of them holding placards calling for the removal of the warden. The jail's district inspector, Norberto Michano, relieved from his post to give way to the probe.
Based po dun sa report na natanggap po namin, maayos po ang pagpapakain sa ating mga PDL. Nakausap po natin yung mismong warden and sinabi niya, nagpaliwanag siya na kung meron mang problema sa pagkain ng mga PDL, hindi ho sana dati pa na ilapit sa kanya, pero ni isa wala man hong lumapit o nagsabi na meron ho silang problema. Pero dahil ho meron silang ni-raise na concern, mahalaga po sa amin na ma-validate ito, makausap mismo sila para ho kung may problema nga ay maiayos po natin.
The Jail Bureau also looking at the possibility that the inmates protested because they are unhappy about being transferred to another building.
Meron ho tayong old building dyan at saka yung new building. Sa new building ho sila nagkandak ho ng noise barrage. Ito hong mga dating leader doon, inilipat na ho natin sila at sila nga ho yung nag-istiga ng gulo kasi ayaw po nila yung bagong facility na kanilang paglalagakan dahil mas mahigpit na ho doon at gusto ho nilang bumalik sa dati.
The driver of a speeding sport utility vehicle faces charges after hitting and killing a security guard in Cavite. This comes just as the Mandaluyong Prosecutor's Office indicted for frustrated homicide another SUV driver who ran over another security guard 2 months ago. Carrie Quito reports.
Prosecutors have indicted Jose Antonio San Vicente for frustrated homicide, a downgrade from the frustrated murder charges filed by the Mandaluyong City Police. The resolution filed before a regional trial court says the June 5 hit-and-run incident does not qualify for frustrated murder. It notes the absence of, quote, an initial intention to commit a crime. Prosecutors also dismissed the complaint for abandonment of one's own victim, citing lack of probable cause. San Vicente's camp refuses to comment, but it earlier stood by its statement San Vicente had no intention to run over the victim and security guard Christian Floralde. Floralde's lawyer, Federico Biolena, tells CNN Philippines they might file a motion for reconsideration. The LTO is leaving it to the court to decide on San Vicente's case. Earlier, the agency revoked his driver's license and permanently banned him from driving a vehicle. In Cavite, another hit and run involving a security guard and traffic enforcer. 54-year-old Rodolfo Mejos was manning traffic along Barangay Salawag in Dasmariñas when a speeding SUV hit him Monday afternoon. Mejos was rushed to the hospital but was declared dead on arrival. Dasmariñas Police Chief Juan Oruga says the victim's family agreed to settle, but the driver is facing charges for violating the anti-drunk and drug driving law. Authorities hope the incident will serve as a lesson to drivers.
Siguro naging bainaw sa pag-drive, maging may ingat. Siguro naging bainaw sa pag-drive, maging may ingat. Siguro lagi natin tingnan yung mga kalsada diyan para wala po na mapahamak ng mga tao.
Caricator, CNN Philippines.
Mandaluyong police says it has nothing against the downgrading the case against San Vicente. The Land Transportation Office in talks with officials of 5 Metro Manila local governments for possible changes to the no-contact apprehension policy. At the hearing of the House Transportation Committee, LTO Chief Teofilo Guadis said they are urging LGUs to lower penalties collected from erring drivers or at least make it at par with those imposed by the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority. Transport Assistant Secretary Guadis clarifies the LTO merely tags motorists apprehended through the NCAP and that it is up to local governments to decide on how to implement the policy.
For the public utility vehicles, as of this time, we are trying to craft a module wherein the penalty should be given to the driver, not to the operator of the motor vehicle. It should be much, much lower than the fees being charged by the LGUs. As of this time, our inclination is that even if it has already been tagged, but the summons has not been served yet on the motor vehicle owner, we will allow registration, we will allow renewal of the license. We will only tag after the due process has been given.
The LTO also says it can resolve the backlog on motor vehicle license plates by the first quarter of next year, 2023, using 8 machines to manufacture them. Guadis adds the LTO is up to date in issuing license plates for vehicles bought this year. Owners can get them in 5 to 7 days if the dealers submit documents promptly. The Philippines has the most stressed workers in Southeast Asia. That's based on global analytic firm Gallup survey taken in 2021. Mental health organization Mind Nation lists COVID-19 fears and financial pressure as two of the biggest factors for work stress. But Chief Wellbeing Officer Asa Fusingan says Filipino culture also plays a role.
There's the limit in terms of our resiliency levels. So might as well in terms of our culture here in the Philippines, there's still that high stigma surrounding people who express their mental health concern. And for that matter, the stressor are not being addressed in terms of personal levels, which could impact the way they work.
Fusingan adds it's crucial for workers to have a management that listens to them and promotes a safe space so they can seek help. When we return, SMB knots the PBA Philippine Cup Finals at 1-1, while Gilas is raring to prove itself against Lebanon in the FIBA World Cup Asian qualifiers. And the fuel prices roll back to the 1980s with Netflix's newest stunt, the Seoul Vibe gas station. You're watching CNN Philippines.
Listo at ganado ang baby ko sa vet-approved Nutri-Chunks with active boost and prebiotics na pampalisto. Made with real meat, with essential nutrients to help them grow healthy and happy. Listo, ganado sa Nutri-Chunks.
Red Horse Beer. Ito ang tama. Sarap ulitin ng lakas ng tama pero di wasak.
Welcome back. Sports news now. The San Miguel Beermen evens the PBA Philippine Cup Finals with a Game 2 win against the TNT Tropang Giga. TNT almost caught up with a 6-0 run, but San Miguel held on to cap off the victory at 109-100 at the Araneta Coliseum in Quezon City. Both teams will look to gain the upper hand in Game 3 happening Friday at the Mall of Asia Arena in Pasay. A breakthrough victory for the country in the AVC Cup for women. The Philippines, represented by the Creamline Cool Smashers, defeated Iran in 4 sets Wednesday at the Phil Sports Arena in Pasig City. The national women's volleyball team seeks to boost its chances of entering the quarterfinals when it faces South Korea at 7 tonight. And the Samahang Basketball ng Pilipinas celebrated the 1 year to go milestone leading up to the 2023 FIBA World Cup to be hosted by the country. SBP President Al Pandillo says the federation is determined to form the best team possible for the competition. Several local ambassadors were also introduced, including members of the fabled Gilas Pilipinas squad that brought Philippine basketball back to the World Cup in 2014, and another country's pride, 2018 Miss Universe, Catriona Gray.
To also encourage our countrymen to express their support and love for our athletes as they go out there and represent and really carry high the Philippine flag in the arena of sports. It gives me so much pride and joy.
Ibang feeling kasi before we were playing and now we're here to support and to be there for our team next year.
Malaking bagay ito sa mga Pilipino, mga kabataan, mga Pilipino dito sa atin na makikita natin yung mga inaangahan natin, mga players na magagaling sa buong mundo.
The list is out. Here's a look at the Gilas Pilipinas 12-man roster for the match versus Lebanon tomorrow, Friday at 2 a.m. Philippine time for the FIBA Basketball World Cup Asian qualifiers. Roosevelt Adams, the top pick in the 2019 PBA draft, missed the cut but was part of the initial 13-player lineup. In entertainment, actress Angelica Panganiban shows off her baby bump and motherhood glow in her stunning maternity shoot. The soon-to-be mom first announced her pregnancy in March. On Instagram, she flaunted her pregnancy body with a caption, "Happiness is on the way." Angelica and her partner, Greg Homan, said they're very excited to welcome their first child. Great news for motorists. Seoul Vibe gas station drives us back to 1988 with very low gas prices for a limited time only. For 1 day, online streaming platform Netflix is opening a gas station on EDSA, Quezon Avenue that will sell gas at 7 pesos a liter. That's happening tomorrow. Vehicles need to pre-book their visit and the promo is capped at 40 liters per vehicle. Online registration has begun. This is a promotional stunt for the Korean movie Seoul Vibe. It's set in the year 1988 when gas prices were still cheap.
7 pesos per liter. Yan ang presyo ng gasolina sa Netflix Seoul Vibe gas station. At di lang presyo ng gasolina ang napunta sa 1988, pati ang buong gas station at crew, balik 1988 rin. Isang araw lang ibebenta ng Netflix Seoul Vibe gas station ang gas sa presyo noong 1988 at hanggang 40 liters ang pwedeng ikarga ng bawat kotse. Paano magpagas? Mag-book lamang ng slot sa soulvibe1988.ph. Pre-registration is required. Kung wala kang reservation, hindi ka pwede magpagas. Limitado lang ang slots kaya mag-book na sa soulvibe1988.ph. Magbubukas ang website sa August 25 ng alas 6 ng gabi.
Even her hair is so 1988. Seoul Vibe premieres tomorrow, August 26th. And that is it for tonight. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
This program is brought to you by
Oh, anyari sa'yo? Ba't nakasimangot ka? Alam ko na. Masakit ang katawan mo, ano? Sa sobrang trabaho? O di kaya masakit ang ulo sa sobrang stress? Break ka muna. Hinga ng malalim at imasahe ang ulo mo gamit ang Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Ako rin ganun eh. Kaya pag mataas ang tensyon sa trabaho, mag-Herbalaya break ka muna.
Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Amoy na kaaya-aya. Sa bawat pahid ay ginhawa.
DYKB Radio Ronda!
Presumptive President or President-elect Bongbong Marcos's days as an ordinary citizen will soon come to an end. The same goes for his running mate, presumptive Vice President Sara Duterte, who will serve as the country's next Education Secretary. The Senate and House of Representatives convening a joint Congress to form the National Board of Canvassers for the two highest elected positions of the land, ignoring a petition at the Supreme Court to cancel BBM's certificate of candidacy. Now, in this episode, we will walk you through the canvassing process and why it matters. Good evening. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Welcome to your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. Now, before we go to the canvassing, let's talk first to Cavite Representative Boying Remulla, who is a member of the House contingent to the Joint Canvassing Committee. But at the same time, and this is really why we're speaking to him tonight, he has just been named as Justice Secretary of the Marcos Cabinet. Good evening, Congressman Boying Remulla. Can we begin with this? So you're a re-elected, you want a fresh term as congressman. What's going to happen to your position? Who's going to take your place? What happens next?
Via the law, under the law, there are two options here. One is a caretaker can come in to deliver the funds to my district, whatever funds are allocated by the government. And the other one is for a special election to be called, which might be better because it will just be the beginning of my term, and there's a lot of time left. 3 years is a long time to have no representative in Congress. That's why, well, hopefully, we'll be able to work out a special election for my district.
All right. When we speak about you being Justice Secretary, by the way, no. When were you told that you would be Justice Secretary, or matagal nyo na itong pinag-usapan ni BBM even before the election or right after?
Pia, I didn't apply to be secretary, kasi first of all, I really ran to be a member of the House, and I was expecting to become the majority leader of the House. That's already an arrangement that was being worked out with the presumptive speaker. But actually, 2 or 3 days after the elections, I was called by the president-elect to his home, and we had a conversation where he told me that he wanted me to serve as his Justice Secretary. And Pia, as a lawyer, I can tell you it's every lawyer's dream to attain the rank or status, but it's not the point. The point is really to be able to help the government run things. Probably my leadership style might be compatible with the leadership style of the president. And it's just a dream for me to be able to serve in this capacity. And with the problems the country has, somebody has to step up. And I'm willing to take a challenge for this.
Can you give us an idea of what you're going to be doing as Justice Secretary? Like, what kind of program? What are you going to focus on? Are you going to, like, for example, look very well into the prosecutorial service? Other DOJ programs?
Well, the DOJ is a very, very big department, Pia. First of all, what do you have there? You have the Land Registration Commission. We have the National Bureau of Investigation, Bureau of Corrections and Criminology, and so many other offices. I mean, name it, the DOJ participates in every government activity. So there's so much to do. And the most important thing probably is the rate of prosecution, acquittal and conviction that is happening right now, where there are jails, when we talk about overcrowded jails, it's because of the slow pace of justice. So probably it's about time that we audit one thing that the first things we can do is to audit all of the detention prisoners to see If they're allowed, they can be freed already to decongest the jails. And for those that have to be prosecuted to work double time. Pia, there's a saying, di ba? May sine, sinasabi nga, and justice for all. Eh dapat dito ang hustisya para sa lahat talaga, sa mayaman at sa mahirap. Ang nangyayari, ang nagdudusa talaga, yung hindi masyadong, yung walang kaya sa buhay. Kaya kinakailangan bigyan natin ng pag-asa ang taong bayan. Ang hustisya ay naroon para sa lahat. Para sa lahat, mayaman, mahirap, lahat ng Pilipino ay dapat magkaroon ng hustisya.
And justice for all, it's good you brought that up because, for example, there are plenty of wrongful convictions, for example, or there are people who we know we should be in jail or in prison and are out scot-free.
Yes. Maraming rin nakakulong na hindi dapat nakakulong. At marami namang napapawalang salan na may kasalanan talaga. Kailangan talaga bantayan ng gusto, Pia. Dito magkakasubukan dahil ang bigat kasi na kagaya ng NBI, kasama natin ng NBI. Kagaya ang kalaban namin dito sa DOJ, sindikato, di ba? Hindi lang sindikato, mga Pilipinong gustong wasakin ng bayan natin, mga mandaraya, lahat ng uri ng criminal activity sakop talaga ng aming mandate. Kaya talaga we have to hit the ground running and to make sure that all of these things are really solved. Marami kasing pwedeng ma-solve na hindi na-solve dahil hindi hands-on ang ibang tao sa trabaho nila. O kaya, medyo ang institusyon ay walang mababa ang moral, minsan walang budget, at minsan talaga kakonsyaba ng sindikato yung iba. Kaya iayos natin ang lahat. Itama ang mali. Sabi nga ni Ping Lacson, yun, kailangan natin gawin lahat yan.
Okay. In the immediate aftermath of the election, napag-uusapan kasi yung, for example, if BBM were to push his unity theme, his unity campaign theme beyond the campaign and moving forward, that would there be that possibility of the new Marcos administration looking into, for example, the cases against Laila de Lima, who was and very clearly anyway, was a very severe critic of BBM himself.
Well, that would be part of the continuity of the job that I will have. Alam mo naman, Pia, is about institutional continuity. Just like the presidency or any department, kailangan tuloy-tuloy ang trabaho niyan. So those cases left hanging, we have to resolve. And everything, if there is a need to review, we will review. Pero, yan, lahat yan, kasama yan, Pia. Politics or no politics, ano yun may kaso talaga yun. Wala tayong magagawa. Ang magagawa lang natin dyan, siguraduhin lang natin na tama ang ginagawa ng justice system sa lahat ng inuusig. At yun ang kailangan natin gawin, ang karapatan igalang natin. Lalo na ang ating constitutional rights.
Well, yun ang importante, to do what is right. Kong Boying, also, we have a minute and a half to go before we let you go because I understand you do have something to attend to. Let's talk very quickly about the canvassing. So you have that petition to cancel yung COC ni BBM pending before the Supreme Court, but at the same time, it is all systems go for the canvassing. You have a 31 million votes for the president-elect and equal number of votes also, give or take, for Sara Duterte. So, dire-diretso lang ito, hindi po ba? The canvassing, as a matter of fact, people are saying perhaps by Wednesday evening or earliest Thursday, we could have a proclamation already.
Well, we hope that we can finish everything by that time. Ano kasi, Pia, it is our constitutional duty to do this. Hindi naman ito binigay sa Korte Suprema para i-desisyon kung sino magiging presidente ng Pilipinas, di ba? Ang saligang batas, sinabi, the National Board of Canvassers shall be constituted. Kaya gagawin lang namin ang aming tungkulin sa abot ng aming makakaya. Kaya lahat ng sistema ang ginawa namin ngayon dito sa House ay very transparent. And one of the reasons why today I announced that I already admitted that I accepted the invitation of the President to join the cabinet is for transparency's sake, no? Kasi kasama ko sa Board of Canvassers, baka mamaya ito na naman, meron na namang alingangaw. Ito, we're being transparent, Pia. Pero ito naman kasi, this was set up a long time ago under the leadership structure of the House, as it is under Speaker Velasco. Kasama talaga ako dyan sa listahan niya nung araw pa. But it's better that I disclose it prior to the canvassing para naman no
one can say anything na. Oo.
Diba?
Oo. Well, there are 31 million votes for BBM. And lastly,
Yes.
Final words from you.
Ang ginawa namin dito, talaga in the spirit of transparency, there's a space for the lawyers, there's a space for the media, everything is being guarded bipartisanly. Kaya lahat ng pwedeng gawin nandiyan na. And then under the rules that we will adopt, talagang yung rulings nito will be both the Senate and the House will agree on the rulings. If there are objections, then they will be resolved accordingly under the rules that we will adopt.
All right, final words.
Well, marahil ang isang dahilan kaya tinanggap ko ang hamon na to ay gusto ko talagang sabihin sa tao, no? Sa tagal ng aking paglilingkod sa Justice Department, sana mahalin natin ang bayan natin. Ang problema kasi, the nation state is under threat from big business interests. The Filipino should be proud of his country. We should not shoot ourselves in the foot. Tama yung space. Kaya nga bagay kami ni Pangulo, sabi niya magkaisa tayo. I believe that. But, yun nga, sana naman, yung mga hindi nagwagi, matatapos ang canvassing na, ay tanggapin na at bigyan ng pagkakataon na maglingkod na maayos ang mga taong nahirang ni Pangulo at lalong-lalo na ang ating President-elect BBM. Sana bigyan naman kami ng pagkakataon na maglingkod. Alam ko na may babatikos, sanay naman tayo sa batikos, pero tingnan natin with an objective eye kung talagang tama ang ginagawa namin para sa bansa natin. Diba? Isang bansa sana tayo. Yung unity is really important to our country at this time.
Congressman and soon-to-be Justice Secretary Boying Remulla, thank you very much for being with us tonight, sir. We'll be back after a quick break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This is Politics as Usual, expeditious, transparent, and credible. That is how House Speaker Lord Alan Velasco is describing what is expected to be the canvassing process for the 2022 presidential and vice presidential elections. Now, before we begin, here are the members of the House contingent to the Joint Canvassing Committee. Over to the Senate. And the team that binds our lawmakers together, Senate Secretary Myra Marie, House Secretary General Mark Leandro Mendoza, and House Sergeant at Arms Brigadier General Rodelio Hoxon. Now, our guest is former Senate Secretary Lutgardo Barbo. Secretary Barbo was Senate Secretary when Nene Pimentel was Senate President. That was back in 1998 to 2001. And in 2016 to 2018, when it was Kanene's son, Coco's turn to be SP or Senate President. Secretary Barbo, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us on the show. Although you were not Senate Secretary at the time of the canvassing for any of the national elections, whether it was 92, 98, 2004, 2010, or 2016, you did have that experience when it comes to congressional canvassing. Can you do a little bit of reminiscing for us? And, at the same time, describe the differences? Because dati manual tayo, and then ngayon, automated, since 2010, automated.
Number one, hindi na masyadong makikita sa automated yung mga mali-mali na mga sinusulat. Halimbawa, tatanungin, hindi yan yung boto na yan ay para sa ganitong tao. Except siguro kung sabihin na may item sonams or identity of ballots, identity of names, item sonams. At saka, Ngayon, mabilis na dahil sineshade na lang. Wala nang isinusulat na mga pangalan. Kung minsan yung pagsulat, hindi pa maintindihan. At noon, medyo mabagal talaga. It took a few months, hindi lang weeks, para malaman kung sino talaga ang tunay na nanalo. Pero ngayon, masyadong mabilis. In fact, so bilis, sabi nung iba, na nabibigla sila.
Kanina nga kausap ko si Boying Remulla, sabi niya, dati nagre-reklamo tayo pag mabagal ang canvassing, ngayong mabilis. Yung canvassing o yung bilangan, nagre-reklamo din sa ano ba talaga. Pero I mean, napakalaking bagay na automated, hindi po ba, sir?
Oo, totoo. Totoo yan na siguro there can even be improvement of the automated, imbis na shading, kasi marami pang kwan dyan. Minsan hindi tinatanggap ng machine. Kung halimbawa, yung, alam mo, may mga matatanda na medyo gumagalaw-galaw na yung kamay, lumalabas na sa circle na isi-shade. At yun ay kinoconsider ng machine na marked balot at minsan hindi kinakount yan. Siguro yung iba dyan, yung kagaya sa Europe at saka sa Amerika, pinipindot na lang. Pindutan na lang.
Parang ATM. ATM na lang.
Parang ATM, oo. Ngayon, ang concern din naman dyan ng ibang tao, madali magkaroon ng corruption, especially yung mga naboto, nabili na boto. Yung both votes. Yung nabili na boto, both votes. And then, you can never erase suspicions. Some of the suspicions are reasonable, and some are totally baseless. But perhaps the prime consideration is the counting, and of course the vote, honest, safe, and was it an exercise of sovereignty, not a prostituted vote as a result of bribe money, yung mga ganon.
Okay. Well, Secretary, so when we say congressional canvassing, of course, hindi ang balota ang tinitingnan ng Senate and House in Joint Congress ng National Board of Canvassers, but yung mga certificates of canvass, and yun yung in-inspect, and yun yung nagiging basis ng congressional canvassing, no? When we think about that, what should people expect in the next few days?
Pia, I think people should expect to find monotony in that because alam na nila kung sino ang nanalo.
Yes.
Alam na nila kung sino ang nakalalamang. In fact, alam na nila kung sino ang number 2, sino ang nag-number 3. Kasi sa COMELEC ay yan ay na hindi naman na proclaim yan ay na ano ba tawag yan, the COMELEC counted yun.
Yes.
Now but the COMELEC has no authority to proclaim the presidential and the vice presidential. Hanggang senatorials lang sila, because under the Constitution kailangan ang the National Board of Canvassers, yung Senate at saka House, ang magpro-proclaim ng winning presidential at saka vice presidential candidate.
Secretary Barbara, we're just going to have to take a very quick break. More when we return. This is Politics as Usual. We are on our final stretch, the last 6 minutes of the show. Still with us, former Senate Secretary Lutgardo Barbo. Sir, itong pending petition to cancel the COC of BBM at the Supreme Court, Tito Soto, for example, SP Tito Sen, no, and Senate Minority Leader Frank Drilon have said that this should not be, and I'm paraphrasing them, this should not be affecting the canvassing. Matutuloy yung canvassing, it won't really matter in the end. Is that how you see it also? Dapat diretso lang tayo sa canvassing?
I think so kasi under the Constitution, sinasabi na not more than 30 days dapat i-convene yung National Board of Canvassers. In other words, the Senate and the House are under obligations to organize themselves and check into the winners of the presidential and vice presidential candidates.
And whatever the Supreme Court decides on, whether it does or does not cancel the COC of BBM, it will not impact on the work of the House and the Senate. Or, siguro more correctly, if the Senate does, if the Supreme Court does say now, all right, we're going to cancel the COC of BBM, medyo we have a problem there, right? But do you see that happening? That could plunge us in the constitutional crisis, wouldn't it?
Yeah. It depends on the Constitution and in the conviction of the members of the Supreme Court. Remember, they were appointed by the president, the incumbent president, and dito sa Pilipinas, hindi pa yata nawawala yung utang na loob.
Okay,
Kaya
sir, what are you saying? That you think that they should cancel his COC? What are you saying?
Well, conjectural lang ito and speculative. Now, I think the Supreme Court should look into the basis of the complaint. Halimbawa lang sabihin nila na ay dapat siya ma-disqualify because he violated the law, because up to now Bongbong, or you do not want to call him Bongbong, BBM, is a convicted criminal. And he is under the judicial records of the judiciary natin, he's a convicted felon. And we should be guided by that.
Yeah. But how do
But
we...
on the other hand...
Sige po, kayo muna.
On the other hand, baka naman sabihin, teka muna, kalaki-laki ng lamang, o boto niya, 31 million. You simply want to erase that number of votes, right or wrong, boto yan ng mga tao.
But there
And
is...
I think,
Yes, of course, definitely the fact should be looked into. But there is, like you brought it up yourself, no, there is that question, 31 million votes for BBM, an overwhelming amount of votes that we've never seen in history. And then, ang laki ng lamang niya kay Lenny. Di ba? So, paano yun eh? Parang, does that make it, para bang nagiging political question na ito? And then, paano... how will the Supreme Court step into the fray, so-called, di ba? Because people have voted. You have 31 million Filipinos voting for BBM. Less than half of that number voting for the second placer, Lenny. And then the Supreme Court coming in and saying, well, he's a convicted, let's cancel his COC. That should have happened before, long before. And then there is also that question, long before he ran for president, he ran for Congress, ran for governor, ran for the Senate. And tuloy-tuloy lang siya. No one questioned him at that point. So, paano to?
Yes. Well, yes, to some extent. To some extent, it will be chaotic. Kaya magulo yan.
Because, you know, some will say, dapat ang second placer, dapat si Lenny mag-presidente. Yung iba magsasabi, kung i-disqualify nyo o kung ika-cancel yung COC ni BBM, dapat si Sara kasi siya mag-VP, di ba? O, paano na?
Oo, magulo.
Ang gulo
Magulo
nito.
na yan.
Naku, ito na naman tayong Pilipinas. Paano po yon, sir?
Kaya nga siguro, dapat maganda at mahusay at based on facts yung magiging analysis ng decision. Kasi the law must be upheld at all times.
Right.
Sabi nga nila doon, di ba sa kuan, may mga sinasabi noon na justice should reign. Heavens may fall, parang ganyan.
Yes.
Whatever happens, justice should be kuan, parang ganon. Ngayon, kung halimbawa, kasi sa susunod, gagawin na kuan yan, gagawin na
President?
parang president. You can be convicted criminal and then you run for the highest public officials.
But anyway, well, we just need to wrap this up already, Secretary Lutz Barbo. But yun na nga, no, mauunang matapos ng trabaho ang ang National Board of Canvassers, yung Senate at yung House. Dahil 15 days pa para mag-comment, sabi nga ng Korte Suprema, dun sa petition to cancel yung COC ni BBM. Anyway, sir, maraming salamat po. Thank you very much for your time tonight. We've been told before, don't talk politics at the dinner table or at a family reunion or in Viber groups and risk digital warfare. But we can talk about it here at this table on this show, your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. I'm Pia Ontiveros. See you back here next Tuesday, 8:30 p.m.
Let's get ready to rumble!